with our first pairing of the day, which will see talent manager, entrepreneur, CEO of the Third Brain, Jake Udell, in conversation with music executive, former Rush management partner with Russell Simmons, co-founder of the legendary Def Jam Records, and former chairman and CEO of the Warner Music Group. I've run out of space on the card, so he'll have to tell us about what he's doing now. Mr. Lyor Cohen.
Thanks, Pete. Lyor, first off, thank you for doing this. A little feedback. Thank you for doing this. It's an honor, and I look up to you very much, so thank you. So I think a lot of people with you, Lyor, probably start at the beginning, but why don't we start at the current? You guys, 300 is the first hit that you guys have had, and I want to learn a little bit about how you guys found that record and what the process was to bring it to the mass market with Trap Queen.
Thank you for having me. Pete, it's always great to see you. I've known Pete for nearly 30 years, so if you think he was just invented the other day, I've known him for 3 decades. Anyhow, and it's good to see you. I'm sorry, I'm just a bit under the weather. I'm allergic to springtime, believe it or not. Last Sunday was the maximum bloom of the cherry blossoms in DC, so I took my daughter to see the cherry blossoms. And as beautiful as it was like I got this massive allergy cold, so I hope I could hold up. Anyhow, I'm presuming you're talking about Fetty.
Yes.
And as a small businessman, we all have to ask ourselves, what gives us the right to do what we do? And I don't think that's a question that's being asked as much as it should be. Actually, you should, regardless what position you hold, you should always ask yourself, what gives you the right to do what you do? Because it is a right to work in our industry. And I have to ask that question as a small businessman all the time. And I have 3 examples. I would just opine on the first one. Maybe the other 2 will come up in our discussion. But when we signed Fetty from Paterson, New Jersey, he had 400 sales on iTunes. And we loved the record. And we met the people that surround him, his production company, which are really super talented people. And we listened to the record and we said, we'll sign him. The very next day, I got 4 phone calls from 4 different presidents. Congratulations, but you know I had him. I said, okay, thank you. Why didn't you get him? Oh, well, he was at my house, and I really loved his vibe, and I listened to the song, so I called my A&R guy, and I got his message machine. And by the time my A&R man called me back, he got my message machine. And by the time I called him back, you had already signed him. So that gives me one of the 3 examples of what gives us a right to work at 300 and open 300. So all these people have all these scouts out there, but what good is a scout if nobody listens to them? By the time the scout goes to that A&R guy, that finally goes to the next A&R guy, that goes to the next A&R guy, goes to a business of, I don't know what the process is. My design is to simply take the complication out of it, listen to a song, meet an artist I love, and sign them.
Brilliant. And so is that the biggest change from going from Warner Brothers and Def Jam prior to being, I can't even believe I'm putting these 2 words together, it sounds like an oxymoron, but a small businessman as you call yourself, the ability to be so nimble and to make those decisions?
Well, at Def Jam, we didn't have that issue. Rick loved an artist and signed it. Russell loved an artist, signed it. I found some artists, we signed them. So it was a little less complex. I think this industry has suffered from a lot of fear. And so the decision-making process of signing artists are a little more cumbersome than they used to be.
Where do you think that fear comes from?
The fear comes from that this business, if you think about this business before the CD, this business was not a highfalutin business. If you go back to where the offices were of Atlantic Records, it was on top of an Italian restaurant, and it was no money. After the CD is when the explosion of the business. So as things rose and became very expensive, it just made, if I fell off of this stage, I wouldn't break anything. But if I fell off the roof, I'd die. And I think everybody thinks that the cost of everything, the amount of money involved, is so severe that people can't actually put themselves at risk.
Do you think it costs a lot less to break an artist these days?
The answer is no. It depends what era you're talking about. Radio, LL's first album, we didn't even have a video. We had a 12-inch, dropped the 12-inch, and sold millions of records. So our marketing expense was next to none. Maybe you're referring to, the last 15 years. It's been expensive, but, it all depends on the era. I think engagement with fans there's an opportunity to do it at a less expensive way than what we used to do it before. This distribution costs have gone down dramatically. When am I going to ask you a question?
I'm ready.
I'm the sick one. You're supposed to be talking. So why are you in this business?
I'm in this business because I believe that artists have something to say.
By the way, it's not a trick question.
I believe artists have something to say, and I believe that my team at Third Brain has the power to give them the platform to speak and to get their voice out to the world and let their music be exposed at a level where it can really make an impact.
But I don't remember your artist speaking.
Well, I think that's kind of...
Sign language or something?
He's referring to Zoo. I think that he does speak through his music, and that sometimes in an era of social media where everybody's speaking so much and there's so much noise, by the time an artist gets to market their album or the new single, they've already taken 25 selfies, and it's become really difficult to actually get the truest message across, which is the music itself. And so we wanted to flip that on its head, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't have something to say, because he's got a lot to say.
So you took an enormous check to sign him at a major label. Do you think that that's a trend? I'm trying to be provocative for you guys, okay? Is that a trend? Do you think that's good for your artist?
It depends. I do believe that in certain situations, the bigger the check, the more that's on the line for the label to make it happen. But in other situations, I don't think it matters at all. I think it's really about the team at the end of the day. And in Zoo's situation, the team at Columbia really understood from the top down musically what we were trying to do. and it was so instinctual. When you talk about the way that you were with Fetty and how quickly you were able to move, that's how Columbia was towards ZHU, and they were just very, very, very on it very quickly, and they weren't gonna, they had to have it. And I think that when somebody has that passion for the project, long term, they usually do wind up being the best partners.
Is it their money?
Whose money?
The people who signed your artist, is it their money?
No, it's not their money.
Oh, okay.
I still think they have a job to do. It goes back to what you were talking about before with fear, right? They have a responsibility to sign and bring the best artists to market. The same responsibility that you had for years when you were in the major label system.
Don't get me wrong. I think they're a terrific label, and I think the major labels are terrific.
Well, you're proving something, right? Because you started 300, a year and a half ago?
14 months ago.
14 months ago, and you said that you were going to have hit records, and for a few months, it was a brand new label. What artist, what song, what was going on, and now you have a bona fide hit record, and I think that it really says something to a lot of the indies in the world, and gives them hope for what the possibilities are. Do you feel like having the executive team that you brought in with 300 enabled you to do something that other independents might not be able to do?
No, we're just lucky and nimble, and every time I hear it's a hit record, I cringe because I really want him to be a fabulous artist that has many, many, many records and a great career. So we've got a lot of work. It's lovely to have a hit record. It certainly helps, because all I've been is spending money. I'm making no money. So it's nice that we have a record that's giving this kid a platform to advance his career. But we won't be satisfied until he could actually continue making a living in the music business without necessarily a hit record.
Cool. So at the core of every industry icon, I feel like there's a set of core values that really defines that person. And when I was in your office about 6 months ago, I got to ask you, why 300? Why start a record label? Your autobiography could come out tomorrow and be a bestseller. And you talked to me a little bit about what abundance means to you and the values that kind of put you in a position to continue to march on and break artists today. And I thought it was really interesting when you told it to me. And if you could tell the audience, I think they'd really like it.
Since I'm over 55 years old, I really don't remember that story I told you. But I'll make it up. So I started as road manager for Run DMC, and our big break was that we opened up for Lakeside and the Barkays. Can you show your hands who knows Lakeside and the Barkays? Oh, impressive. I gave a speech at Stanford yesterday, and 2 people raised their hands. And when I drilled down on those 2 people, they actually didn't know who Lakeside and Barkays were. So anyhow, Lakeside and Barkays are a funk group that had no less than 17 instruments and band members. And their manager came up to me on stage, and there was a tape about 6 feet by 6 feet. And he said, "Son, you see that tape there?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Make sure you guys don't perform anywhere outside of that tape." So I looked at the tape and I said, how am I going to go squeeze Jam Master Jay running DMC? But I looked him dead in his face and I said, "We're so honored to be on this tour that we really appreciate the opportunity. And of course we won't pass this tape." And he said, "Son, I like you." And I remember it was about 95 degrees and it was outdoors, and he had a purple suit on and he had jerry curls. And the jerry curls were dripping on his purple suit. It was so hot. And he said, I like you so much, man. I used to be a road manager. And I said, oh, that's great. He said, yeah, it was a really great group, important group. And he said the name. And I looked at him, he said, you don't know that group? I said, no. And he started singing to me. I had a blank stare. He says, oh, don't worry about that. I also road managed this group. And I had a blank stare. And he went through the whole routine again and started singing to me. And it was at that moment that I said, I'm never going to be that guy. I don't want to talk about anything having to do with my past. I don't even care about my past that much. The only time that I want to think about or talk about is right now. It's 0-0 and 4 quarters, and I want to win. So that's the moment of impact. You never know how you bump into the things that you learn. I definitely didn't want to be that guy.
So since we're allowed to talk about your past right now, the one time only, Run DMC and you did a very interesting deal with Adidas. And today, I feel like the consumer's so smart that a lot of those deals don't seem to be working the way that that deal felt so organic. Where did the instinct come from your perspective to make a deal like that, and what kind of impact do you feel like it made for the group?
You know, I get a lot of credit for stuff I actually didn't do. But the reality is, they wore Adidas all the time. They waved them in the air. They made a song about Adidas. Adidas would have been like I mean, they would not even be alive if one of those people didn't call up and say, hey, how about the Run DMC and Adidas? So I really don't understand why I get the credit for that other than being at the right place at the right time. And part of, I think, what we do, what I love to do, is when it's lubricated and it's all feeling good, why not? And, you know, I think there's too much, let's do a sneaker deal. Well, the guy doesn't wear sneakers. Oh, fuck it, put it on his shoes. I mean, I don't know. It feels a little too organized, this whole froth of getting brands and artists together. I think it's important, but I think there has to be some sort of truthfulness. Otherwise, the brands are going to get jerked. And then when the brands get jerked, the guy gets whacked or the girl gets whacked, and then all of a sudden they're doing comedy instead of music. I think we have an obligation, if we're going to engage brands' money, to do a good job for them. And part of doing a good job for them is truthfulness.
Let's shift to tech for a second. While you were chairman at Warner Brothers, you guys became the first major label to do a deal with YouTube, and then I believe the first as well to do a deal with Spotify. Now, when you see platforms like Tidal launch, and some of these platforms like Spotify's insane evaluation that came out yesterday, in some cases they're worth, I think it was, somebody know? I think it was 16? 8 billion? 8 billion. So with those type of valuations being worth more than the record labels in some cases themselves, what's your opinion on technology, on Tidal, and on these platforms giving a way for new artists to break?
So many questions all in one. So let me try to peel this onion back. First of all, I have always had a very long-term view of what I do. I never really, instant gratification is not important to me. Time and positive indications that I'm moving forward are. I get excited by movements, brush fires, little things that point to the right direction. I believe content, at the end of the day, becomes insanely valuable. Music content becomes recorded music content. becomes enormously valuable going forward. I may be an outlier, but I believe that. So, to me, when I was at Warner, I didn't care that we were valued so little and these startup tech companies were valued so much. None of that really mattered to me. I did believe that subscription, streaming, was going to be an enormous business, and it's going to really restore the health back to the artist community and the label community. I mean, it's honestly not debatable. And the only reason why anybody's got a little funky opinion is only because the paid universe is so small. But when it gets to 50, 75, 100 million, it's an enormous business. And it's great for our industry, great for everybody. That's why I wanted to start a little label now, and why I'm so focused on recorded music, is because I really believe that this business is just going to come off the hinges. It's really a great opportunity for all of us in that end of the business.
So you're friends, and obviously we're a mentor as well to Jay-Z. What's your opinion on Tidal?
I would never bet against Jay-Z. I think I applaud the risk-taking. He doesn't have to take on risk. I applaud the thinking process. But we all know that execution is 95% of everything that we do. An idea is fabulous, a great idea is fabulous, but execution is key. And I think a lot of people don't truly understand how difficult it is to acquire a paying subscriber. Very, very difficult. So I love the fact that it's in the vocabulary and people talking about subscription. It's very powerful, streaming. I love it. And I root for him every day. I think he's just an extraordinary person, and I adore him.
So 3 years ago, on New Year's Eve, I was in my father's office reading the Def Jam 25-year last great major label book. And today, there's all sorts of small movements starting up. With the internet, it's so much easier. You don't need a big record label executive to believe in your vision to start your own movement. David Dan in the crowd right over there, he runs Mind of a Genius, small independent record label. Together we broke Zoo, and now he's got a movement with another artist named Gallant, who I manage. Do you think that there's going to be, out of these little uprisings that you talk of, you mentioned you see something little and it shows it's pointing in the right direction, do you think we'll see another great movement like Def Jam?
Yeah, I do believe that you will, and it's inevitable. But in so many ways, you have to understand there was no design. It was actually a moment in time that we went the wrong way. Like, we were following the little blue sign, and then we hit the black diamonds, and you had to ski. Maybe that's a bad analogy. I'm sick, so. But Jeff Bezos said that for entrepreneurs and startups and business people, if you're following your business plan, you're fucked. So Def Jam's business plan, it wasn't what it ended up being. So I think that if you don't put so much pressure on yourselves and you pay attention to the high quality, and that people are losing sight of the quality, if you stick to an ethos and a belief, our most important records were the ones that didn't fit beautifully. They were actually the ones that were the most difficult ones, and they're the ones that actually made that. You know, when we did the 25 anniversary at BET, and many of our artists performed, when Public Enemy performed, it was a timeless song that was as good at that moment as it was 25 years earlier. And then you hear some of the other ones that may have been bigger and more well-known, they sounded old and like, whoa, I don't know how we did that. So you just have to focus on high quality, and it's usually the ones that don't fit beautifully. If you're chasing like a direction, if you guys ever have conversation of what format it belongs in, then you're all fucked. That's when you're just day trading. And I don't think this business is a good day trading business. Thank you. Thanks, Pete. Yeah. Like a good English boy. I should stay sick. I'm funnier when I'm sick. Jake, let me ask you a question. How do you like California?
I love California.
Man, this is very seductive. I came out here last week for a day, beautiful and comfortable. And today, I just arrived from Stanford, also beautiful and comfortable. Is this why so many people have migrated to, music creators have migrated to Los Angeles? I know English people love Los Angeles. They just skip New York and go straight to LA.
I guess so. The question becomes, when are you going to make the move?
I'm from Los Feliz, right up the hill. And ever since they invented the strip mall, Los Angeles is not for me. I love visiting it, but it's lost its character that I loved and remembered. So I'll just keep it as a beautiful memory and come and visit during the winter.
So how does 300, I'm sure you guys have a lot of young employees, how do you build the rapport with your young team in order to make sure that 300 stays close to the ground and to the trends, and to make sure that you're the first one that gets to hear and sign the next hit record?
It's the basis of our ethos. We sit in a pit. There's no intercom system. There's no human resources. We don't like memos. Emails suck. Either you got it, stand up, and let's go get it, or keep it moving. It's a really simple thing. We're actually out there trying to find artists. We're actually out there. I was telling, aside from out there, we actually hit play. We actually listen to music. That's a very novel idea.
And who's the artist you're most excited about right now at 300?
I love all my artists. I'm actually personally supervising. I'm like the product manager extraordinaire on everything Conrad. I don't know if you guys have heard Conrad. He's the guy who sings Firestone on Kygo's record. He's the one who wrote that record. He sings on that record. I was supposed to sign Kygo. I flew to Norway. I hiked up and he doesn't live in Oslo, by the way. So it wasn't like I flew to Oslo. I flew to some other place. And I had my dress shoes on, and his father picked me up and said, "Would you like to take a hike?" And, okay. I ate a lot of smoked fish later on at the parents' house, and I thought I had it done. I didn't have it done because I don't do bidding wars. Another record company comes in, I'm out. Period. You could have it. You and your bosses and your bosses' bosses and your bosses' bosses' bosses, go ahead with that. I can't do that and build a business. So I was so close that we were working with him with one of our artists that we just signed from Australia called Conrad. So just imagine how pissed off Sony is that they signed this kid for a massive grip of money, like could own this whole hotel money. And the first song is my artist song. They spent a year trying to beat that song, Firestone, and they just couldn't beat it. It's that good of a song. And so kid's a brilliant talent. He's from Australia. He's 24 years old. Sings so beautifully. So I'm really focused on that. We just got the Ed Sheeran tour. We did Australia. And the Firestone record is breaking all over Europe. And I'm going to draft right behind that with Conrad's first single. And I really believe in him. The other artist that I'm totally psyched with is Young Thug, who's a game-changing artist, a very unique guy. Like he's in a nice storm. I know you guys don't have that, but imagine what a nice storm is when it snaps the electric wire, and now the electric wire is live in water. That's Young Thug, a unique and prolific talent. I think he's exquisite, and we're going to come out with him right now. And of course, Fetty, developing Fetty and getting for people to actually love him, and not simply just a record, is a great challenge. And the other artist that just in love with is Meg Mac, another Australian girl. She is the #1 BuzzFeed artist going into South by Southwest, and the #1 BuzzFeed artist leaving South by Southwest. An exquisite talent, just a remarkable person. We have Migos coming out. You know, there's a lot of things. Highly Suspect, a rock group that we have. I really like doing this. I'm really in promotion mode. Highly Suspect is climbing the alternative and active rock charts. People going apeshit for him, for that artist. And there's just a lot of things going on.
You obviously have as much experience as anybody dealing with hip-hop artists. And when you have a prolific talent like Young Thug, who I believe just changed from, the Carter 6 to the Barter 6? Is that what the new name is?
Yeah, unfortunately. I tried to get him to change the Barter 6, and he understood. I feel a personal responsibility to these kids. I've had such a wonderful success. I've never, ever sat down. I challenged Professor Griff in 1988 in front of his whole crew. It was in Switzerland when he made those obnoxious comments. I challenged him in front of his clique. I believe that everything can get solved through education. And I think the fact that he's going to call it Barter 6 is a mistake. But he listened and he agreed, and we were going to change it to an X, Barter 6. And the lawyers wouldn't allow that to happen too. They said, Barter 6, it's got to be Barter 6. So he actually understood and was prepared to change the name, but we're running out of time. We're dropping this thing. So, you know.
So how do you keep an artist like that with keep their eye on the prize?
Show them, take them and show them things. He's going to do, I'm not supposed to say this, but I'm going to blame it on being sick. He's going to come out to Jamie XX at Coachella this weekend, and he's going to flatten that place. And that's going to be the first time he's ever going to see something like Coachella. So this is a kid that gets brown paper bags to perform at club that have bottle service. So now he's going to see Coachella, and that's going to resonate with him. Like, whoa, they really like me, and this is really incredible. I could get down with this, and hopefully that's a motivation. So part of it is, you know, when I told him, we got to do this record, he said, what the fuck is that? And then I played him the record, and I said, do me a favor. I'm going to trust you on certain things, you trust me on certain things, and we just pass the trust back and forth. And if it works, I keep the trust and I don't get to deplete it. He said, okay, I'll give you one. And he loves the record. I don't know if you heard the record.
I haven't heard it yet.
Oh, it's incredible. Can I plug in? We're in the music business, Pete. Is that a novel idea? No, we don't know how to plug in. You barely spent any money for speakers, let alone. Okay. All right, fuck it. Go to Coachella. So Jake, how far do you live from your parents?
My parents live in Chicago.
Okay. So do you have any artists that you're super excited about?
Yeah, I do. I'm super excited about this new artist named Gallant.
Are they signed?
He is.
To whom?
That guy right there.
Who are you?
So David and I, we started working together about 2 years ago. He had developed ZHU and worked with ZHU to really refine the sound and develop a vision. And when we met, they blessed me with the opportunity to join the project and to together bring it to fruition. And then we found Gallant. It was kind of old school, actually. It was like, it was at the Bootleg Theater down here in Silver Lake. There was about 9 people in the room, and 3 of those people happened to be David, myself, and Tom Windish. And the second that he started singing, tears started rolling down my eyes. I think I grabbed David and his girlfriend Jess, and I was freaking out.
So why can't I sign it?
Hey, he's right. He's ready to negotiate.
Of course I want to do a deal. I want to show them how simple it is.
He's brilliant, though.
Oh, boy.
John Ingram somewhere back there.
All right, so you're excited about that. What other interesting questions could I ask you? Does anybody have any questions that you want to ask Jake? Go ahead.
My name's Anthony. I work at DJCity.com. And my question for you, Jake, is why did you take a different approach with ZHU in your marketing strategy compared to Krewella? I know they're different artists, but you know, a few months ago, I actually wrote a story about ZHU's marketing strategy, and I don't know if you remember, but your team called me up and told me to take it down. I respected it.
It must not have been a good story then.
Touche. Or maybe it was too good, right?
Maybe.
No, we respected it. It was fine. So that really kind of made me dig deeper, and I'm just kind of curious why the difference?
I'm blessed to work with artists that have, as is my team, that have incredible vision. And when you really dive deep into what the artist hopes to accomplish, one of the key things for me when I'm looking at a new artist is figuring out how that artist is different than every artist in the world. And as we dove deeper, in Krewella's case, what it really meant to bring the rock to the rave, and what it really meant to have a female group in dance music, we realized that they were different and they deserved to be marketed differently. Same thing with ZHU. And I'm a huge believer, obviously not the same exact, you know, that's not his goals, but he had his own goals. And when I look at what they wanted to accomplish, it becomes my team's job to figure out how to bring that to fruition. I'm a huge believer in communication intelligence. I believe that our world was once ruled by IQ and EQ, and a lot of people are still living by those tenets. But today, communication intelligence and the ability to actually mastermind every single touch point. And that doesn't mean that that's necessarily our team. And a lot of times that's the artist and them saying, oh, I didn't realize we could do that differently. I want to do it like this. And not having the fears that Lyor touched on earlier and really just going for it and saying, you know, our goal is not to be everybody else. Our goal is to be different. Our goal is to build our own lane. And every artist deserves that customization. In today's world, a lot of record labels, management companies, they're just trying to do the same things. They're still fighting over exposure. And I think exposure in the 90s and early 2000s was so much more important than it is today. Because today, the exposure is only as good as the content is and how it's different and how people can bond with it. And so we just try to really create an experience for the artist and the fan that is unique, that makes you want to write that article, makes you want to dig deeper, and that peel apart the onion until you really have figured it out. And even once you have, you still want more. No, every new artist deserves that care. You know, that it's really challenging when you're a new. I used to be an artist, so it's really challenging to. You might say 10 things. I might say 10 things I want to do, and as an artist, to be told that one, that's really going to be powerful. Let's focus on that. How would you focus on that? And when you ask the artist that question, they come up with all sorts of ideas. And the real lapse is sometimes in that execution. And our team cares a lot, so we've been blessed and haven't had those lapses.
So that need to be kind of secret or behind the curtain was from the artist too. It wasn't like something you guys cooked it up, right? Is that what you're saying?
He had a vision from the very beginning that the music was the most important thing. You may remember he was released without a name. And the reason for that was because he believed that the music should come first. And he still believes that. And everything we do, we come back to that original statement and say, okay, does this put the music first? Does this keep music as a faceless entity? Because in America, it's become so much, you know, what's the headline? Who's the face in the front? And I believe on a global scale, the thing that really resonates is the record itself. And we just really wanted to bring it back to that. And we were lucky because nobody else was doing that. Everybody else was using social media. So when we didn't, it caught people's attention. But that was never the goal. The goal wasn't to do any of these things to catch people's attention. It was just to create great art. And that comes from him, yes.
Any more questions from the floor for Lyor or Jake? Yeah, okay. I've got one for you, Lyor. What did you go to Stanford for? Were you looking for staff or giving them advice?
I was doing both. I really believe in these kids in these schools, and we have a great internship program. Really, really dynamic. I put a lot of work in it. And so I've had a lot of success at Stanford with these kids.
Okay, next question.
How you doing today, Mr. Cohen? Name is Donnell Perry, came from Chicago. Just have a two-part question. So say, for example, I do technology and also own a label. If I actually do strategic partnerships under 50 Cent and Timbaland with a live streaming platform, do you still think live streaming is the future? And are you interested in technology? I have two pieces of technology. One is a live stream platform. The other is a patent technology, and I'm working on with some partners to actually decrease and stop digital downloads with music. Would that be something that 300 is interested in? Do you still think live streaming is the future?
I just want to make sure that we're all talking the same language. When you say live stream, you mean in a performance?
Live stream, well, this is an app. It's actually an application. It's called Hang With. So we live stream broadcast directly to people's mobile phone.
A performance or?
A performance, any type of content or footage.
An interview?
Any type of content or footage. Performance, interview, any type
I
of
think all that stuff is terrific. I really believe in being able to have unencumbered access of the artist to the consumer. I really love that. Would it be nice for me to shepherd it and bring some sort of rigor? The answer is yes. That's what I think the next iteration of our business is curation. because the digital revolution destroyed distribution, but it also broke the levee. So there's a ton of music out there. How does one sort through that? And that's the question. So the answer is, I'm interested in everything, but I got a few people. I'm a very small staff, and I have to stay really focused on signing the creation of the music, stay really focused on music and creative, and then become smarter, more attentive to technology. Otherwise, I'd lose the plot. Remember, I have to get to some place before one of these slick other people get in the mix. You know what I'm saying? Thank you. Thank you. Oh.
Another question? Over here. Do you want to?
Hey, my name is Asher from DJ City as well. My question's for Lyor. I'm wondering if you see any detriment to signing an artist based off one big hit record. I'm not saying that's what's happening with Fetty, but that record is so big that for him to kind of follow up, he's got a long way to go. And some other artists come to mind, guys like Bobby Shmurda or Trinidad James, some of these other guys. Do you see that as an issue? And is this a new phenomenon that's happened within the last decade or so, or has this always been the case where somebody's got a hot record and then they get signed, and from there it's up to you guys to kind of build their career?
It's not a new phenomenon. You remember the Pee Wee Herman? I mean, every couple seconds there's another, big hit record that gets all the kids crazy. I really wish you didn't put Fetty in the same sentence as those two guys. But of course, the blade that cuts for an artist always cuts against them as well. And it's going to be up to the creativity and strength of character that Fetty and we have to endure. You see, it's great to have all this money come in. Every time the money is coming in, I say to myself, we have to slice a piece of that money to work on things that aren't obvious, that lie beneath the ground. So it's a blessing to have such a hit record. It's also difficult, but if you put on the work, you go to work now, and take some of the, just don't bank all that profit, but reinvest that profit into working in developing the artist. I think that's part of the challenge. I hope I answered your question. I really am not feeling well, but anybody else?
I got one more question for you. As during your time at Warner's, you were one of the first groups to kind of do a deal with Apple. What are your thoughts now on sites like Spotify, and do you miss being part of the conversations going forward with all the streaming services with Spotify and whatever Apple does next?
So one of the reasons why I left Def Jam is because I really hated the fact that I wasn't in the conversation. And I didn't understand what these people that were in charge of the conversations were having. That goes all the way back to Napster. I did not believe in playing defense. I always believe in playing offense. And I always believe that content will rise. So that's one of the reasons why I went to Warner. And then it was the cuckoo's nest. There's too many conversations being had, and I'm not talking about working at Warner's was the cuckoo nest. I adored working at Warner. I have a lot of amazing, amazing memories. Beautiful people that I worked with, incredible artists. But the complexity of making change in the digital landscape took a lot out of me. I'm just I'm a music man that doesn't have too much fear. I'm not scared about much. And I just feel that content is going to be incredibly valuable. And it will sort, it's like a river. It will find its way to its lowest level. And I believe no matter what people are going to do, this is a foregone conclusion that streaming subscription is going to be, it's too good it's too valuable for the customer. The fans have a really great opportunity here. And once they have a great opportunity, all that means is it's good for us, I think.
You think it'll ever really just be free? Instead of freemium, just free?
So there is a thing called feels like free. And I believe that's another iteration of our business, when it feels like free, but you're actually paying for it. Is that my brother back there? No, all right.
I think we've got just time for one more question, and just there. And we'll wrap it up.
I really appreciate you inviting me to do this, Pete. And
Thank you for
and of course, Jake was incredibly persistent, and I appreciate you doing that. I just wish I felt better and I could have given you guys more.
Thank you for letting me ask you a question. My name is EJ Friedman. And I'm feeding back. My question is this. If you give us a mandate for something that we could all do, which would be more important? Looking for the new business model or looking for the new artist?
Always, you're asking a music guy looking for the new artist. Always, in my opinion. I'm sorry.
Looking for the new tech model was also part of that. I should have asked.
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand the question. To me, it's looking for the new artist. I think magnificent, powerful artists will change the world on a whole host of levels, makes our lives that much richer and better. And I think music is such an incredibly important part of what we do that it will find its way. I think it's harder to find Kurt Cobain and Jimi Hendrix than necessarily the next smartest app and stuff like that.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you, Lyor Cohen. Jake
Pete, thank
Udell.
you.